Okay.
So I'm all polished now. All right.
Yes. I'm sorry, Marguerite. Yes. So, what is your question?
For good afternoon, first of all.
Yes.
I have a nearly 32-year-old son. Well, his birthday's next month, and I feel he's curious. I call inquiry. I feel he's ready to make an inquiry into becoming more conscious, and I would love to introduce him to you. And I'm not quite sure how to present it to him without being like without missing the mark, as far as overdoing it, kind of like, oh, well, I guess they could just do it with me and have to do it. But I kind of want more of a flavor in there. Does that?
Yes. Yes. So he expressed an interest in inquiry, in happiness. I'm assuming that he expressed some interest in.
I saw him just a couple of days ago, and for the first time after a long depression, he felt like he was looking. He was willing to listen to his mum, engage him in his breath and ask him to drop in and feel how that had shifted things. So he has some lightness to him now after being depressed, and I kind of want to show him a light, and I'm not quite sure how to introduce you to him without being basically mum. I really want it to come from his inquiry.
Yes. Well, the best light you can introduce him to is your own light.
Yeah. That's true.
In relationships, usually with parents, we have some history. We are unable to sort of, or not unable, sometimes it's difficult for us to be free and present and happy with a parent or with our children. We have some history, we have recollections, we may have some expectations. And to be together and see if if you could mute your mic over and see. 1 moment, just double check. Okay. Okay, fine. So, if you could be with your son without any expectation, just completely present, completely loving, non-judgmental, just to be like with your son, like it is somebody else's son, but no, sometimes even with other children, somebody else's children, we are judgmental. So to be completely present to him, to be interested in him, to be curious about him, not to perceive problems, not to perceive a problem, to listen with an understanding that whatever he is going through is part of his journey right now, and it's important for him to be experiencing, to be perceiving whatever he's perceiving right now. So you are meeting him just where he is, as he is, yes? And already in that invitation, if this invitation is genuine, there's going to be an openness. And as you notice his openness, you have to be careful not to then become his teacher or his guide or his, somebody who knows better. Instead, simply enjoy that moment of openness, because once there is an openness, it is a shared openness. It's never, I am open and you are not. See? It is a shared openness. So you sort of, in a way, what maybe you could say, you could hang in this openness.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of him meeting me, you could maybe introduce him to some of maybe YouTube, recent to YouTube video. He can watch that and see if he is interested. Maybe he's not, and he's, so that could be. But if you recommend him to, for example, watch a certain video, and you have some anxiety or attachment or expectation, he will sense that, even if he may not be aware of that at some level or another. He will sense your concern. And to be concerned means you are not trusting. When you are concerned about somebody else, you're not trusting their path.
Yeah, it's true. Concern. Yeah, not trusting.
Right. When somebody is going through whatever they're going through, you're there, present. You understand that that is part of their journey. And if they knock on your door, here you are, you see? There is nothing, no goods that you are selling. You have to be careful not to sell goods to your son. Parents have a tendency to believe that they know better than their children. I would say that most often lots of parents need to learn from the younger ones rather than be their guides. But without making a general statement about that, just sort of a remark just passing by, I would invite you to be the light for yourself. And as you are the light for yourself, that light will shine, and your son will bathe to a certain extent in the light that you are. Yes.
Yes, and I have this little memory of and being the light is happiness and joy and some gratitude. And when I say goodbye to him last time, I did drop into it, how blessed we are to have this life, to have this opportunity to have inquiry even is a blessed place to find yourself. And I'm saying that's how I show up in my light, I believe. Living that.
Yeah. Although we already are the light of consciousness, because of our tendency to perceive ourselves as a person, as a mother, as a son, as a daughter, as a man, as a woman, because there is that the tendency, the light of being that we are is slightly veiled. So once you start recognizing the light, you start recognizing consciousness, that it is not personal, it's just a shining light of consciousness, shining through the body-mind. You continue to sort of walk towards the light in a way. So it's not a static recognition, it is a recognition that deepens. So you are moving more and more towards the light via your living as best as you can as universal consciousness, as consciousness, and to relate with others, in this case with your son, as that same consciousness, not as a person. We imagine a person, we imagine ourselves as a person, we imagine our son as a person, and therefore we imagine personal problems. And it's very difficult not to perceive from that sort of vantage point.
Yeah.
It's very hard not to perceive from that vantage point, as long as there is still an impression of being a mother, a son, a daughter, a man, a woman. So it's a dynamic process in your relationship with yourself, with friends, and with your son. A dynamic process of going back to knowing yourself as the transparency of being, knowing yourself as that which precedes the image, as that which precedes the thought, that which precedes the concept, and to recognize that in the other. So first of all, you need to contemplate that your son is not your son, that your son is consciousness, and it is one consciousness. And whatever dream your son is dreaming, and whatever dream you are dreaming that your son is dreaming, doesn't affect in any way whatsoever what you truly are. Whatever dream your son is dreaming, or whatever you dream that your son is dreaming a certain dream, that is completely mental, completely empty, and has no effect whatsoever on what we are.
Pretty far out there.
Yes, I know. We imagine problems. We imagine problems because before the imagined problem, we imagine a person. And when we imagine a person, we feel. There is the me feeling. We feel that I am a person and that the other is also a person. And when there is that download, then there are personal problems, personal issues, personal hopes, personal disappointments, the good and the bad for the person. And that entire realm is mind, and what you are has nothing to do with that realm. What you are is not affected whatsoever by that realm. In your night dreams, whatever night dreams you are having, you as the dreamer, as the night dreams, you are not there. You are not a character in the dream. Nothing is happening to you. It is all mind. When you wake up in the morning, you realize there was really nothing happening. And that what you are, nothing happened to that. Similarly, you need to bring that metaphor from your night dream, bring it to your waking state, your waking dream. It's a state like another state, like the night dream is a waking state. The night dream state and the waking state are states. They're mind states. So in this moment, it's a mind state, which we refer to at the mind level as the waking state. Waking at the body level. It's not the wakefulness, it's not the awakening, it's a waking state. So similarly, in this moment, what you are, you're perceiving, whatever you're perceiving, thoughts, perceptions, sensations, but nothing is happening to you. When you believe that something is happening to you, you will experience a pinch, an emotion. And this emotion seems to be, at the mind level, it's a very bad thing. A negative emotion is a very bad thing. So the mind makes these discrimination, good, bad. It gives a quality of good and bad to an emotion that has no qualities, is completely neutral. Whenever you are imagining that you are a character in the dream, that something is happening to you, or something is happening to your son, or to your house, or to your car, or to your bank account, you will experience unhappiness. And unhappiness is simply being away from what we truly are. What we truly are is causeless happiness, peace and happiness that doesn't depend on your son, your body, your car, your friend, your house, your boss, your mother. The causeless happiness, what we truly are, is not in the dream. It pervades everything without being subject to anything that happens, that seemingly happens. But when you mistake yourself to be a mother, then you are in the mind realm. A good mother, bad mother, better mother, worst mother, etc. All of that. The realm of relative happiness. There is no such thing as relative happiness. There is happiness or not, peace or not. There isn't partial happiness or partial peace. We cannot be the light unto others if we are not the light unto ourselves. To awaken to the light that I am, to the light of being, is how the light can shine through us, as a way of speaking, onto the world, body, mind. But so in a way, the way we help, sort of relatively speaking, the way we help the world is by awakening to our true nature. And when we awaken to our true nature, the whole world awakens. Why? Because in the awakening, we realize that I am the world. Like when in your night dream, when you wake up, you realize all these dreams were you. They were generated by you, created by you. There was nothing that you dreamt. Even if you dreamt of pink flying elephants, or if you dreamt of people, your son being in the Bahamas, or your son being married and having 4 children.
Yeah.
All, all of that was within you. So your son, when you're experiencing your son, you're experiencing your son as yourself, within yourself. And when you're experiencing your ideas about your son, you're experiencing those ideas within yourself. But the way you experience your son, I'm going to talk generically, with the way we experience our children, is we experience them as a concept. We have ideas, images, that a body of images, a body of concepts that we say is my son or my daughter or my partner. And we relate with our children as a concept because we have, unknowingly maybe, already defined ourselves as concept. We have conceptualized I, which is consciousness, which is a reality of awareness, which is beyond any concepts, beyond any names, beyond any forms. We have conceptualized that as a man, a woman, or we conceptualize that as a body of images, a body of feelings and emotions. And the concept is not the thing. So we conceptualize consciousness as me. And then from that point, from that initial conceptualization, we conceptualize everything else. We conceptualize people, things, animals. We conceptualize. We're experiencing the concepts. We are in the mind. In the dream, you enter your night dream, and in your night dream you create all these characters, and via these characters, and every one of these characters is perceiving their mind, and they're all your creation, and they're all conceptual. Because what truly perceives right now has no gender. Has no name, no age. The woman comes after. The memory, the image comes after. Comes as a concept. But in fact, there is no after. Your actual experience is always now. But it's not a now that is in time. It's the now that is infinite, that is eternal. And what truly perceives right now, the reality is a formless, invisible, presence, awareness, beingness. That does not come and go, that has no form, no shape, that is not phenomenal, that does not age, that is not born, that is not lacking anything, that has no limits, it has no shell, no borders. So what is the other? For consciousness, there is no other. which is love, when there is no other, we are one. It's a oneness.
Thank you.
Your contemplation is not personal. It is, you could say, on behalf of everyone and everything. So via your contemplation, your son is contemplating. But your contemplation has to bring your son as your very self, not your son as somebody out there with their personal issues. Come to really the essence of your son is the one essence, it's only one essence. You want to know the reality of your son. You don't want to help your imaginary son. You want to help the reality of your son. That's what you love, is the reality of your son.
Yeah.
Not your images. You love his reality. And the reality is one. There is only one reality, which is consciousness. So your love for your son, which is the love for the reality of your son, the truth of your son, the essence of your son, is your love for consciousness, for that one reality, which is consciousness.
Yeah, he's my teacher almost. Yeah.
Yes, consciousness is our teacher in everything and everyone. Everything that we experience is an opportunity for us to reflect upon our experience. So when we're experiencing something, we can experience it from the mind level, meaning we like it, we dislike it. If the experience is something that matches my conditions, I like it. And if it's a situation that is not giving me what I hope I want or what I think I deserve, I don't like it. I project onto the experiences my likes and my dislikes. I project the mind. So the mind is projecting and is separating, which is different from contemplating. When you're contemplating, you are noticing these projections of the mind, and you realize that these projections are empty. They are completely subjective. They have no value of themselves except for creating unhappiness, for creating a sense of separation within ourselves. And then we project, without knowing it, these conditions onto the people that we so-called love. Because we don't understand love. We think that love comes from the mind via thoughts and behaviors, but love is not via thoughts and behaviors. Love is consciousness. Awakening to love, understanding love, is the contemplation of what we are, and not via the mind, by helping the poor or helping our children or following the causes that we believe are good causes. All that is mind. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't relative benefits at the mind level, relative and temporary. Like, for example, when you have a headache, you take an aspirin and you feel better. is relative. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about really going to the core of the matter. With your son is not your image, not your idea of him. Son is the reality of your son, which is the reality of consciousness. So that's the contemplation, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I very much feel that, because in his depression, I let him have his journey. I saw it as a journey. He was, an experience he needed to go through. And yet, if I look into my true self, it's like now I can show up and well, basically be love. And that's probably where I get a little over ambitious, because I want him to, as I use the word inquire, make inquiries that, what is consciousness, and I feel a little smug maybe, but honored to have a place at the table, where I could introduce them, or I can, come from love, the best as I know that place. But it also going into his depression with him, like not full on, but really feeling that. It was like, oh, wow, I've never been there. And I let his experience become my experience just for a little while. So I let that, I have no other, I mean, I have other sons, but they're not giving me the same experience. So I let that be so felt from his experience, because I know him, as a complete little being,
Mhm.
as much as I'll ever know anyone. And anyway, I just get a little excited sometimes that he listens to me.
Trust the love. You trust the love that you feel, that you contemplate, that you love. Trust the love that you love. Allow the love to take care of business. And we experience the negative emotions as a person. We personalize the mind. It personalizes in me and personalizes the world, and then there is all sorts of emotions, including depression. And so it's a journey that we go through, and because we personalize, we identify, we personalize the body-mind, we personalize consciousness as a body-mind. We experience these negative emotions, and these negative emotions, it's like God is pulling us back, saying, "Okay, hey, you're going the wrong direction. You're going deeper and deeper in the mud." It's calling us back through those what we refer to as suffering. So it's just a journey we all go through in our own way, and this is part of the journey, in a way you could say.
Mhm.
But in your relationship with your son, it's important that you don't personalize him. He's maybe already personalizing himself, but for you not to personalize him, not to personalize yourself, and not to personalize him. Because if you look for the person, you find it's just thought. It's just thoughts and images. And then when you're personalizing yourself or personalizing your son, you're just turning them into your thoughts and images. You're turning them into a bundle, or you're turning yourself into a bundle of thoughts and images. So let go of that.
Thank you. Sit down, my knees are getting tired.
Okay, Zoe. Thank you. Awesome. So if there is any other question, anybody?
Magdi?
Yes, Zoe. Hello. Hello, Zoe.
Hi. And you sort of already answered this for me, but maybe you can add a little bit more. When you were speaking with Ananda last satsang, towards the end, you talked about consciousness will appear as whatever you need. It may be the partner from hell. In that if you want to be, if you hold on to your belief structures, if you think that you're a separate being, very often what happens is a lot of unhappiness and suffering. And, you know, when I heard that, it just occurred to me this whole thing of thinking, okay, you're my teacher now, but really consciousness has been, like you say, the teacher all along. And even that, you know, going through these experiences, that the teacher has always been present.
Yes.
So that, yeah.
Yes, the teacher has always been present, but our recognition of the teacher and the teaching has not always been present.
Okay, yeah, because the dream seems to be getting so much happier. Yeah.
So that's the self becoming more and more transparent as your very self. And there is more happiness, peace, transparency, inner tranquility.
I just got this sense that love is always taking care. Well, I guess it's just consciousness is always just pure love.
Yes. It's consciousness is pure love as the one reality. All is this one love. There's no separate anything in love. In love, all is love. All inclusive. But there is nothing to include, it's all love.
Mm.
There is no beneficiary of love. And nobody that is receiving the love is just being love. Being love is universal being. It's not a personal being love. It's a recognition of the non-dual nature of truth, the non-dual nature of consciousness, and that I am that. That I is a universal I. That's where we meet. That's where all the drops of the ocean are the ocean. And the ocean, there are no drops. And the ocean is not really an ocean, it's just love. Peace. Equanimity. Wisdom. Clarity. The clarity that comes from the peace, that comes from the stillness, from the silence, that speaks without speaking. The mind dissolves in Satchitananda, in the bliss of the self, in the peace, the ocean. The concept no longer arises.
The concept of mind no longer arises? Or concept?
The first concept is the I thought.
Okay. Okay.
That consciousness is a concept, which we call I. It's the I thought. The concept appears to a subject.
Oh, okay.
In the concept, mind is born. And the first concept, the I thought, objectifies consciousness. Now there is the reality of consciousness, and now I am that concept. And then I look around from the concept, and all I perceive is concepts. I perceive is concepts. I perceive the world, the body, the mind. I'm perceiving concepts. It's the mind. The concept consciousness is not consciousness. It refers to something that is not a concept. It refers to its reality, which is not a concept. And this reality has to be my reality and has to be your reality. And has to be the reality of my son, of the tree, of the bird. So what is that reality? It's not the bird, the image, the thought, the concept, the bird. The reality is one. The reality is not the concept. It's not the name. It's not the shape. It's not the image. The mind arises as concept, and then it's an image making. It's in the realm of the images. So at the mind level, it's always conceptual, imaginary. But all images refer to a reality. You could say the reality out of which they arise, the reality that they are, some reality that they are, a reality that perceives them. Like your night dreams, the reality of your night dreams is you, the dreamer.
Mm.
So the content of the thought is not what is real. What is real is the reality of the thought. The reality of the thought is also the reality of its content. But the reality of the thought and the reality of its content is not in the thought or in the content. It is in the reality. The reality of the thought is in the reality, not in the thought. And you know in your experience that there is one reality, which is consciousness.
Mm.
The reality that perceives this perception, whatever you can call it, awareness, consciousness, Satchitananda, presence. So the reality of the thought and the reality of its content is not the thought or the content. The reality of your feelings is not in the feeling or in the content of your feeling or in the thoughts about the feelings. It's in the reality. The reality of everything is in the reality of that thing, not in the thing, in its reality. And what is the reality of the thing? If there is one reality and we know that consciousness is reality, then reality of everything, every perception, thoughts, sensation, memory, emotion, is consciousness. But consciousness not as a concept, because the reality is not a concept. Concept is something known, that is perceived, that is conceived by the reality that is not perceived nor conceived. And this reality, being one without a second, has no opposite, which is peace. There isn't the red team and the yellow team or the blue team. Yes? No, there aren't teams. That's peace. Peace in the world is when there are no more frontiers, no more psychological frontiers, no more prejudices, no more borders. Peace in the body is when the body dissolves in the vastness. Peace in the mind is when all these forms, all these thoughts dissolve in the wide open sky of being. Peace in the heart, in the feelings is when love becomes universal. You're no longer loving a certain form, a certain person, or a certain group of people more than others. At the body-mind level, it's a different thing. At the body-mind level, the body needs, for its survival, to be at a certain temperature, to be nourished, certain nutrition, to have some rest, to have some social. But the body is not what you are. It's an appearance to you. It's also your object of management, of caring. So you care for the body like you care if you had a pet, a cat, a dog, a bird. You care for them as best you can, knowing that sooner or later that is going to go, that body is going to go, that property is going to go. But you recognize yourself, or if you do recognize yourself as that which is not a body-mind form. You are the consciousness. You are the love. Not a love that is born and dies. Not a conditional love. But the love that is peace, that you like soak in it. You know? It soaks in you. It doesn't bring up the mind. It says, "Oh, he did, she did," or not that. There isn't that arising in the love. That's arising in the mind. The mind, that a preferential mind, which means a mind that projects good and bad onto that has no good or bad in it. There is no good and bad outside of the mind's projections, the labeling. And we do that within ourselves, because there is no other but ourselves. There is nothing else but ourselves. We are doing it within ourselves. Everything we're doing in the world, we're doing it within ourselves. The world is myself, because the reality of the world is the reality of consciousness. But the world as a concept is something else. There is no reality to the world as a concept. The reality of the world is consciousness. This is my reality. So in that way, I am the world. In the real way, in the reality way, I am the world. But in the imaginary way, oh no, the world is something else, some concept, some idea, something out there somewhere. I don't know. Good world, bad world, the better world, the worse world, the political systems of the world, all that is a conceptual realm. When you imagine the concept to be real, you're very troubled, because you conceptualize yourself and you conceptualize the world, and you are experiencing the angst of separation. And you're very unhappy because you want to return to your wholeness, but you don't know how, because you're caught in the conceptual realm. Your belief system is keeping you in the belief in multiplicity, in the multiple realms. You don't realize that there are dreams. You don't realize that there are conceptual realms. Until you start contemplating, what am I truly? What is the reality of my experience? What is it that is real in my direct experience in this very moment? You come to consciousness. And then you ask yourself, what are the qualities of this consciousness? Where is it? How old is it? What gender is it? Where does it start? Where does it end? How far apart is consciousness from myself? How far apart is anything from consciousness?
Thank you, Magdi.
Yes. There is a question that was sent to me by Anjin. So Anjin, you sent me the question. Hi Magdi, in this video, Mooji talks about beyond Satchitananda, where the sage abides. Does this have meaning for you? And is it something felt in the heart or intuition? Okay, Anjin, before I answer this question, I would like to share that my comments to your question have nothing to do with Mooji's teaching or what Mooji is pointing to. I am simply addressing the question that you sent me, but it's in no way a representation of any expression that I have concerning Mooji's teaching or anybody else's teaching. I do not comment about other people's teachings. I don't have any say about that. The teacher's teaching is relevant to the student, and that is between the teacher and its student. Having said that, the question about the sage abiding beyond Satchidananda, does this have meaning for you? Is it something felt in the heart or intuition? So the spiritual journey is about awakening to our true nature. Our true nature is already. It already is. You could say it's already awake. But there is no opposite to our true nature. So our true nature is never not awake. So our true nature already is. Another way of putting it is our true nature is inherent, innate, causeless peace and happiness. Not the peace, happiness at the mind level, which is related to pleasure and pain. It's not the peace and happiness that is a result of getting something or improving one's lot in life or getting richer or anything like that. Our true nature is causeless peace and happiness that has no opposite, that is absolute. So in the teaching, because we have accepted the notion that the mind is real, that the world is real, that the body is real, that thoughts are real, and feelings are real, and memory is real, and emotions are real. Because we have conceptualized consciousness and have, in the process of conceptualizing consciousness, we have given the reality of consciousness to the concept, to the mind. The I, which is consciousness, has been hijacked by the concept body, mind. So I now, due to this, what we refer to ignorance or identification, or in Christianity they say the original sin, the I that is consciousness has been hijacked by I the person, I the man, I the woman, Adam and Eve. And our experience of via the senses, our perceptions, our sensual experiences have been given a reality that is connected to the physical senses, which are concepts of eyes and ears and nose, and the senses have hijacked awareness. So now awareness belongs to the body, belongs to the brain. There is a whole body of science that is trying to find where in the brain, in one part of the brain, there is consciousness or awareness. So the teacher, the self, the sage, which is the self. The teaching is pointing you back to the source. And the first pointer is that when you say I, you're referring to consciousness, to presence, the I am. When you say I am, the I am precedes the I am a man or I am the body. You say I am, you stop right there. You don't go to the next step. I am this or that. So in the teaching, there is the whole process of neti. I am not this, I am not that, until you arrive to just I am. In some cases, students arrive to I am very quickly. They understand, they have some capacity to comprehend I am very quickly. You just point them to the I am precedes being a man or a woman, and they get it, yes. And that I am is not phenomenal. The body is phenomenal, but the I am is not phenomenal, it is numinal. It's the first pointer, or one of the early pointers in the teaching, the I am, which is also referred to as presence. So I am, which is presence, is in the term Satchitananda, it is the Sat part of the Satchitananda. So the first understanding is I am, I am. And that is, I am is non-phenomenal. And there is a reality to I am before I become a man or a woman or whatever. There is a reality to pure I am. An undeniable reality to I am. This is initial understanding. And another aspect of the teaching is that awareness or consciousness does not belong to the brain. It does not belong to the senses. That awareness, consciousness, belongs to awareness, consciousness. That there is consciousness, there is awareness. And when you ask yourself, what is it that is aware? You can comprehend that it is awareness that is aware. So another aspect of the teaching is that awareness does not belong to the body-mind, it belongs to itself. It is a reality. There is a reality to awareness. Awareness/consciousness. I use the same term for consciousness, awareness. There is a reality to consciousness, and that reality of consciousness belongs to itself. The next step in the teaching is to understand that there is one reality. That cannot be proven. That cannot be proven. But we know intuitively that there is one reality. There are arguments that can help you if you're having difficulty with that. Do you know there is one reality? If you knew that if there were two realities, what would know them? There has to be one reality that knows them. But anyways, I don't want to go into that right now. We know intuitively that there is one reality. We've already established the reality of I am and the reality of consciousness. Given that there is one reality, the I am, meaning presence, and consciousness, awareness, are one reality, are one. The I am is Sat in the term Satchitananda. And the awareness consciousness is Chit in the Satchitananda. When there is an understanding that the I am is this consciousness, and that the I am and the consciousness are real, this is where the reality lies, and that there is one reality. There is the possibility of the mind dissolving in that understanding. When the mind dissolves in that understanding, in Satchit, then there is the term referred to as Satchitananda, the bliss of the self. You experience the bliss of the self. There is only one bliss, which is consciousness. And bliss is not an experience that anybody is having. It is the quality of consciousness is blissful. But it's so blissful that it's beyond the concept of bliss. So say Satchitananda is still a term that is used to summarize the entire teaching. So Satchitananda, the realization of Satchitananda is the realization of Sahaja Samadhi. It's the awakening to the self, and the full awakening to the self is the awakening that completely settles, where the entire realm, the mind completely settles in that understanding, dies in that understanding, dissolves in that understanding, and no longer arises. Or maybe it arises once every 99 million times, but barely arises, no longer arises. So the question is, beyond Satchitananda, and again, this is not at all a comment addressed towards Mooji's teaching, because he may have been meaning whatever he was pointing to a certain question in a certain way, so I don't have a comment about that. But there is no beyond. There is no beyond the death or the dissolution of the mind into the self. In the dissolution of the mind into the self, the entire conceptual realm, the world, body, mind, returns to the source. And only the source is. Does this have meaning for you, or is it something felt in the heart or intuition? I think I have said enough about this question. There is no beyond Sahaja Samadhi. Sahaja Samadhi is not an experience. It is the end of all experiences. The end of all experiencers. And one could say, in relative sense, the return home. The home that completely dissolves in and dissolves in us.
Magdi?
Zoe.
You answered a question that was on my mind too, but I wanted a little more clarification. In Sahaja Samadhi, the mind completely dissolves. So the functional aspect, I mean, just moving around in the world, there's no mind in that. In Sahaja, I always thought there was like a functional mind or something.
What moves?
Hmm.
When the baby is
Ah.
putting their thumb in their mouth, they're moving their hand.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Are you moving your eyelids right now?
Hmm. Ah, okay. Thank you. Okay. Hmm.
Movements refer to somebody.
Yeah.
Movement is mind.
Hmm.
So in your dream, the bird is flying over Venus. The bird is colors of the rainbow. Is the bird flying?
Ah.
Are you dreaming? In the absence of thought, because there is the absence of thought. The absence of thought is between every thought. The absence of thought is the space in which the thought arises. And the absence of thought is when you go to the thought, there is no thought. So in the absence of thought, what is it that dreams?
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
You know, some people say, oh, you mean like, when you're awake to the self, that means, you walk, you don't see the table, you bump into the table. You don't see the table? What do you mean? You don't see the table? There's no table?
Mm. Mm.
Sometimes the mind isn't ready to die.
Mm.
So it says, oh, you mean you're going to walk and bump into the table? You don't see the table?
Yeah.
Mind conceptualize a table, walking to the table, and now it's spinning, it starts to spin. And it's basically saying, okay, come and spin with me, you see? Come and spin with me.
Right. Yeah, I can see that now that it's just a concept. There's a functional mind that's necessary.
Yes, it's the old fun. I mean, in the teaching, we use concepts, we use terms, like a surgeon uses a scalpel to do the operation, but then you throw away the scalpel and the operation is finished. You don't need it. Or you use a canoe to cross to the other side of the stream, but then you don't carry the canoe on your back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the teaching, there are concepts that we use in a tools that we use in a certain way to bring the understanding, to bring it to the edge of the understanding. Then they're discarded. So it's not about remembering the teaching. Teaching is more like an anesthetic. The operation occurs after the words, after the anesthetic. Sort of weak metaphor, but there is a silent teaching. And the words are like an anesthetic.
Well, that's my experience for sure, Magdi. When you talk, sometimes everything in me just, it's hard to even formulate anything anymore.
Mhm.
And the other thing that I wanted to mention was this thing of, having you for a teacher. It's so different from just listening to another satsang. What is I don't know. Esther and I discussed this, but it's like having and you mentioned this before, the necessity of having a teacher, not, going from one person to one person to but like this person is the teacher. And you're not a person, but anyway, there I've just been noticing that it's like the glue of the illusion keeps getting stripped away. I don't know how else to put it, but there's a difference than before when, I would listen to satsangs.
Well, that's what matters, really. What matters is that silent understanding, and that the solution and the comprehension that of itself, of its own, releases the knots or answers the question or resolves
Yeah.
the question. And the peace that we recognize, at the causeless peace, that we start to recognize more and more. Initially, we think it's the teacher, we feel it's the teacher. At some point, it becomes our own. Teacher and the student unite as the self in that silent understanding. And then the teacher is a student, the student is teacher. There is no more student or no more teacher. It's just loving friendship. And that resonance that happens, that you're expressing, is a very precious resonance. Sort of also, it guides us. Because we experience more and more of a deepening and an understanding and an open happiness, and also we enjoy the teaching and the teacher and the whole. It's like we keep falling deeper and deeper in love, and we become more and more the love. The mind continues to settle and settle and settle. It's a very high grace when you meet your teacher that resonates with that you resonate with, and that your questions come and you feel like they're coming into the light,
Mm-hmm.
and they're settling within you. They're finding their answers within you, of course, within your own recognition. And you meet the teacher that you resonate with at a deep level. As you are ready for completing the journey.
Mm.
Because there is a completion to the journey, but it's not the end of the journey. Completion where you find yourself free of angst and established in happiness.
Mm.
Then becomes your natural state, your natural way, whatever you call it. You become that. You are happy.
Mm.
Causeless happy. And worry-free, problem-free, and then the light of the self will shine through you.
Mm.
It's a silent understanding. It's a silent understanding.
Thank you again.
Okay, is there any other question? Okay, well, thank you all for your lovely company and friendship and love. And we'll see you again maybe next Sunday, as possible. Yes. Okay. Namaste.